Hello everyone, my name is Roshni, and in this video we will be comparing two different David statues. You see, throughout the Italian Renaissance, which spanned from the 15th and 16th centuries, and the Baroque period, which spanned from the 17th and 18th centuries, there have been numerous of David and Goliath depictions in art, as you saw at the beginning of the video, with many of them displaying the same scene of David's victory over Goliath. Until a certain sculptor decided to break away from the redundant depictions of David and created a new way of seeing him. The man in question is none other than Michelangelo Buonarroti, who sculpted the famous statue, Michelangelo David. And for comparison's sake, we will also be looking at Giuseppe Maria Mazza's sculpture of David. Two statues that depict the same story but are made in dramatically different ways. But before we go on any further, it's important for us to go over the story the two statues are based on. Both statues come from the biblical tale of David and Goliath. In the story, David, a young shepherd, and his people were being attacked by the Philistines. To defend his people, David went up against the giant, Goliath. And so he went to battle without his armor. Picks up a stone, places it into a sling and hits Goliath between the eyes. And the giant falls. Then with the giant's own sword, David cuts off his head. David symbolized the power hidden within the most unlikely and unexpected heroes. It was a true underdog story. One that resonated especially with the Florentine people. So much so that Michelangelo was given a commission to sculpt David to represent the Florentine people, since they saw themselves as the underdog who defeated two tyrants who previously ruled their country. The story of David would continue to inspire artists in the Baroque period, such as the artwork of Giuseppe Maria Mazza. Giuseppe Maria Mazza was one of the leading sculptors of Bologna, Italy, in the late 17th and early 18th centuries. He is best known for his sculptural work in terracotta and stucco. In particular, we are going to talk about his 3D rendition of David's triumph over Goliath. Unfortunately, I'm not sure when exactly this sculpture was made, since I couldn't find it anywhere on the internet. But moving on, like previous artists that had sculpted David, Giuseppe portrayed the character as a young boy. He deliberately emphasized the boy's slim and youthful physique. This, along with the small stature, reveal that the boy is on the brink of adulthood, making him an unlikely and unexpected hero. He depicts David after defeating Goliath. Here the masculinity appeal lies within the strength and confidence the young boy has shown through his victory. In contrast, Michelangelo, who was an Italian Renaissance painter, sculptor, and poet, defied the story of David and Goliath, as we are presented with a more mature David in deep thought, moments before the battle rather than after. Michelangelo created this sculpture around 1501 to 1504. His statue deviates far from the original youthful character of David, veering off into the realms of fantasy, with an idealized male body. The masculinity appeal here is the athletic body of David, where Michelangelo designed him to have a muscular, strong, and tall body, qualities that was highly revered during the Greek and Roman eras. Michelangelo chose to represent David's strength of character, rather than a realistic portrayal. Both statues are 3D illustrations of the character David. However, when put side by side, you'll notice that the two statues are made from completely different materials. Giuseppe's statue is made out of terracotta, while Michelangelo's statue is made out of marble. Despite being made from different materials, both statues were given incredible textures to enhance the details of the character. To achieve that texture, lines and shape were used. For example, on Giuseppe's David, he mainly used lines/curves to bring out the hair and the drapery. Although Michelangelo does use some lines to bring texture to the body, such as the veins and muscles, he also uses shape to bring out the texture in the hair. The repetition of the circles in David's hair gives the audience an understanding that his hair is curly. But shapes weren't just used for textures, they were also used to bring unity to the character's body. The torso has almost a rectangular form to it. We see that triangle was used for the nose, circle for the ears, and ovals for the eyes. Speaking of eyes, did you know that one of David's eyes is looking slightly off into the other direction? This was done intentionally. Since the sculpture is gigantic and was originally meant to be seen from the rooftop of a cathedral, viewers typically see only one of David's eyes at once. David's left eye meets yours while his right eye is staring slightly in the distance. Okay, back to shapes. For Giuseppe's David, we even see a trapezoidal shape being formed in Goliath, which kind of brings a pyramidal-like composition to it. This does give the statue a very stable/balanced form. Whereas Michelangelo David has more of an asymmetric balance due to his contrapposto pose. Given its size, any stronger action pose risked to compromising the balance. Let's also talk about how the proportions were used for each statue. You see, for Giuseppe's statue, the proportions between David and Goliath shows the dramatic contrast in scale between the figures. Specifically the two heads, emphasizing the size difference between David and his enemy. In contrast, instead of using proportions for the content of the statue, Michelangelo used proportions to make David's body visible since it was originally supposed to be seen below. The hands and head are disproportionate when compared to the rest of the body. Semiotically, Giuseppe's David is an icon of a young boy while Michelangelo David is an icon of a grown man. He is an index of the ideal male body, that is young and strong. The story of David and Goliath prompted the creation of two different versions of David. Michelangelo David with a mature David before battle and David's triumph over Goliath with a young David after the battle. And it is those statues that would impact the culture today. You can see many of their references in today's media. Michelangelo and Giuseppe were alchemists who turned marble and terracotta into flesh and bones and brought a physical realism to the sculptures. Thank you for watching this video.